The stars stretched endlessly across the black sea of space, shining like cold fires in the distance. Captain Jaron sat alone in the command chair of his small ship, the Resolute. His eyes were fixed on the console, but his mind was restless. For weeks, he had traveled through unmarked space, looking for work, looking for adventure, but also searching for something he could not name. Then it happened. A faint sound crackled in his comm system. At first he thought it was just static, but then he leaned closer, adjusting the controls. The sound was weak, broken, almost lost inside the emptiness of space. But beneath the static, there was something else, a voice. Jaron froze. His heart beat faster as he turned up the signal. It was not human. The voice trembled, soft, and filled with fear. He listened carefully, trying to piece the words together. They were not in Galactic common, but his translator began to catch fragments. Help. Trapped, please. He leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. Someone was calling for help, and not just anyone. The voice carried the weight of suffering, of desperation. It was not a trick, not a false lure. He could feel the truth in every broken word. The signal came again, weaker than before. This time more voices, faint and overlapping. Some cried, some begged. All filled with despair. Jaron felt a chill crawl across his skin. He had heard distress signals before, but never like this. This was not a single person lost in space. This was many, and they sounded like prisoners. He tapped commands on the console, scanning for the origin. The computer struggled to track it. The signal was scrambled, hidden behind layers of interference. But little by little, the system traced it back. The coordinates appeared on the screen, a planet, far out. Deep in a sector that was rarely traveled. Jaron frowned. That part of space was marked as dangerous. Alien empires had warned travelers not to enter. They called it a dead zone. Some believed it was cursed. Others said smugglers and raiders used it as a hiding place, but no one spoke of it openly. It was the kind of place most captains avoided, but Jaron was not most captains. He stared at the flickering signal again. He could ignore it. He could turn away, sell cargo somewhere else, live another day in comfort, but the sound of those voices pulled at him. He could not erase them from his mind. Their cries reached deep into his chest, reminding him of his own people long ago, when humans were weaker, scattered, and often ignored by the great alien powers. Damn it, he muttered under his breath. His hands tightened on the controls. Whoever they are, I can't just leave them. He set the course. The Resolute hummed as its engines came alive. The stars shifted on the screen as the ship turned toward the forbidden sector. His heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. Hours passed as he traveled closer. The signal grew clearer, though still broken. He now understood more of the words. The voices spoke of cages, chains, and pain. They begged for release. They prayed to any power that would hear them. Jaron clenched his jaw. He could picture them, frightened and hopeless, trapped in some dark place. But something else worried him. The signal was not only a call for help, it was also a trap in the making. If he could trace it, then others could too. Whoever held those prisoners might not want rescuers to come, in fact. They might be waiting for someone foolish enough to follow the signal. Jaron checked his weapon systems. His ship was not large, but it had survived many fights. He had fought pirates before, and he had outsmarted raiders, but this felt different. This felt bigger, darker. When the planet finally came into view, Jaron's breath caught. It looked dead. Its surface was dry, cracked, and lifeless. No city lights, no signs of life, just endless deserts of stone. Yet the signal came from there. Steady now, louder. He let the ship orbit slowly, scanning the surface. At first, he saw nothing. The planet seemed empty, but then his sensors picked up something strange. A faint energy field, invisible to the eye, but stretching across a wide region of the surface. Beneath it, faint structures appeared on his scanner. Hidden underground. Jaron's eyes narrowed, his gut twisted. Whoever was down there, they didn't want to be found, and yet they were still sending out their cries, desperate for anyone to listen. The voices came again, stronger now. His translator struggled, but he caught one clear phrase. "Please, save us." Jaren closed his eyes. He felt the weight of their words press down on him. He could turn back. He could pretend he never heard them, but he knew the truth. If he left now, they would die, forgotten in the dark. When he opened his eyes, they burned with resolve. The human in him, the fighter, the survivor, refused to walk away. He gripped the controls. His voice steady and low. "I hear you," he whispered to the stars. "I'm coming." And with that, Captain Jaren prepared to descend into the shadows of the Forbidden world, unaware of the horrors and secrets waiting below. Captain Jaren guided the Resolute carefully into the dark stretch of space that every chart labeled as restricted. His ship's lights cut through the void, but the shadows seemed heavier here, thicker, like a curtain drawn across the stars. Even the starlight looked dimmer, as if the galaxy itself wanted to hide this place. The computer's warning voice echoed in the cabin. "Entering restricted sector. Proceed at your own risk." Jaren smirked without humor. "Yeah, I figured that out already." He muttered, but inside his chest tightened. He knew very well that restricted zones were not marked for no reason. The signal from the captives grew stronger the deeper he went. It no longer sounded like random bursts. It pulsed in a rhythm, repeating every few minutes. The cries overlapped with static, but now he could clearly hear them begging. Their words sharper, their pain undeniable. They spoke of walls, chains, and endless darkness. Jaren's jaw set hard. He was on the right path, but the danger grew. With every passing mile, the navigation map displayed old notes made by alien explorers decades ago. Most of the entries were red warnings: ships lost. No survivors, strange disappearances. Some spoke of cursed echoes that lured travelers. Others described violent syndicates that ruled in the shadows. Few lived long enough to confirm which stories were true. As the Resolute pressed forward, and icy silence wrapped around him. His sensors picked up no patrol ships, no transmissions, no space traffic at all. It was unnatural. Most areas of space, even dangerous ones, still had smugglers, traders or raiders, but here, nothing moved, nothing dared. "Like a graveyard," Jaren muttered, tapping his console. He increased sensor scans. His ship pinged the darkness, searching for signs of life. At first, nothing responded. Then suddenly, the radar flickered. Something massive registered far ahead. Jaren leaned forward, eyes sharp. It wasn't a ship. It was a station, enormous and hidden within the shadows of a dead asteroid field. His computer struggled to outline its shape. The entire station was cloaked by distortion fields, its structure warped and flickering on the display. But Jaren wasn't fooled. He recognized clever hiding. Whoever built that station wanted it. Invisible to the galaxy, he frowned, wondering if the signal truly came from the planet he had scanned earlier, or if it had been bounced from this very fortress. The cries for help were still strong, echoing in his ears, but they could have been redirected to confuse anyone tracking them. His instincts screamed that this place was a web, and he was flying straight into it. For a moment he thought of turning back. He thought about the safety of staying alive, about ignoring a fight that wasn't his. But then he remembered the sound of those voices, their hopeless begging, and something in his heart refused to abandon them. "All right then," he whispered, gripping the controls tighter. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding." He maneuvered the Resolute closer, carefully weaving between the sharp rocks of the asteroid field. The ship's hull scraped against space debris, the sound vibrating through the cabin. Shadows moved outside the window, twisting and stretching like claws across the stars. As he drew nearer, hidden defense turrets came alive. Jaren's sensors blinked red, warning of weapons locking onto his ship. He cursed it under his breath. Of course you'd have teeth. Quickly, he cut the engines and drifted in the asteroid field, blending the ship's energy signature with the surrounding rocks. For several tense minutes, he floated in silence. The turrets scanned the area, beams of light cutting across the void. Searching, waiting. He held his breath, every muscle tense. One mistake, one small movement, and his ship would be blasted into scrap. Finally, the turrets powered down again. Retreating into their hidden alcoves, Jaron exhaled slowly, sweat cold on his forehead. He had seen enough to know this place was not just dangerous. It was designed to keep secrets buried forever, yet the signal kept calling him. Stronger, clearer, like a heartbeat under the noise of space. Jaron studied the readings again. He realized the source wasn't just one place. There were multiple. Signals, scattered but synchronized. Some came from the planet's surface, others from beneath the asteroid station. The cries of the captives were being bounced back and forth, making it nearly impossible to know their true location. It was a cruel trick, but also a sign of desperation. Someone down there wanted him to come anyway, no matter the risk. He closed his eyes for a moment. Breathing deeply, his mind returned to Earth, to humanity's old history. There was a time when humans were weak, when stronger alien empires laughed at them, ignored their suffering. Jaron remembered the stories of humans abandoned in colonies, left to die, forgotten. And he knew if humanity had survived that, if humans had fought their way to respect among the stars, then he could not turn away now when he opened his eyes again. They were steady and fierce. He marked both coordinates, the hidden station, and the underground signals on the planet. He didn't know which one held the truth, but he would find out. Hang on, he whispered to the voices echoing through his come. Whoever you are, I'm coming. With engines roaring to life, the Resolute pushed deeper into the forbidden zone, toward the planet cloaked in silence and the station lurking in shadows. Jaron knew he was stepping into the jaws of something terrible. But he also knew this was the only path forward. The cries for help grew louder, pulling him like chains toward the heart of the darkness. The planet looked dead from orbit. Silent deserts of dust and stone stretching endlessly. But Captain Jaron knew better. His scanner showed faint energy pulses beneath the surface, buried deep like veins of fire under cold rock. Whatever was hidden there, it was alive, and it was shielded from the outside world. He guided the Resolute toward a canyon split open like a scar on the planet's surface. His ship's thrusters stirred clouds of dust as he descended. The signal grew stronger, clearer, and now his translator caught entire phrases. "We are trapped. They will not let us go. Please help us." Jaron's jaw tightened. His instincts whispered that this was not just a prison, it was something worse. He set the ship down and activated the camouflage field, hiding the Resolute beneath layers of rock and shadow. With his rifle slung across his back and a small pack of survival gear, he stepped out into the dry, cracked land. The wind howled through the canyon, carrying with it a faint metallic smell like rust or blood. The entrance to the underground complex was not obvious, but Jaron had seen enough hidden bases in his life to know where to look. He followed the scanner's readings along the canyon wall until he found it a door carved into stone, sealed with alien tech. Its surface shimmered faintly with an energy lock. Jaron knelt, pulling out a small device from his belt. He connected wires, letting the human-made machine work against the alien system. Sparks danced as the lock resisted. But human stubbornness often won against alien arrogance. The door cracked open with a hiss, stale air rushing out like the breath of a tomb. Inside, the tunnel stretched downward, metal walls lined with strange markings. The air was heavy, the silence pressing against his ears. He moved carefully, every footstep echoing too loudly in the narrow passage. His hand gripped the rifle tighter. Then he heard it, voices not from his come, but echoing through the metal halls, faint, but real. He froze, listening. The words were in different tongues, mixed languages, but all carried the same tone: fear. Jaron pressed forward, the tunnel opening into a vast chamber, and what he saw made his stomach twist. Rows of cages lined the walls, stacked on top of each other like shelves in a warehouse. Inside were dozens of alien girls, their bodies thin, their eyes wide with terror and exhaustion. Some looked barely alive, their skin pale, their movements weak. Chains bound their wrists and ankles, glowing with suppressive energy that prevented resistance. The moment Jaren stepped in, the girls shrank back. Some whimpered, others covered their faces. They had seen guards before. They had seen torment before, and they expected the same from him. Jaren raised a hand slowly, lowering his weapon. His voice was calm, steady. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. The translator carried his words into their languages. The girls blinked, uncertain. One of them, a small figure with silvery skin and trembling hands, stepped closer to the bars. Her voice was weak, but it carried a fire that had not yet died. "You are not one of them," she said. "You are different." Jaren nodded once. "Human," he said simply. The girl's eyes widened, as if the word itself was a legend. "A human," she whispered, then looked back at the others. "He is human." A murmur spread through the cages there. Faces lit up, not with full hope yet, but with a spark, a fragile light they thought they had lost. Before Jaren could speak further, heavy footsteps echoed from deeper in the facility. Harsh voices barked commands in an alien tongue. Guards were coming. The silvery-skinned girl gripped the bars, her voice desperate now. "Leave before they see you. They will kill you and punish us worse." Jaren's eyes hardened. "Not leaving," he whispered. His hand moved to the control panel near the cages. His scanner lit up complex codes, multiple locks, impossible to break quickly. The footsteps grew louder, shadows stretching across the corridor. Jaren pressed himself against the wall, heart steady, mind racing. 2 guards entered the chamber, massive reptilian creatures with armored hides and cruel weapons in their claws. They laughed as they passed the cages, mocking the prisoners. Jaren understood enough to know they were joking about new tests and breeding cycles. His stomach twisted, rage boiling inside him. The guards stopped when they saw the half-open door. Suspicion flashing in their eyes, one growled, stepping closer. But before he could raise the alarm, Jaren moved. Like a shadow he struck. His rifle fired once, a sharp beam cutting through the guard's chest. The alien collapsed with a roar that turned into silence. The second guard swung its weapon, but Jaren ducked, rolled, and fired again. The blast tore through its armor, dropping it to the floor with a crash. The chamber fell silent once more. Except for the prisoners' gasps, their eyes were wide, their bodies pressed against the bars. They had just seen something they thought impossible, an outsider killing their captors. Jaren knelt by the fallen guards, dragging their bodies aside. He searched quickly, pulling a set of access keys from one of their belts. The device glowed, shifting its shape as it synced with his scanner. He stood and looked at the silvery-skinned girl again, his voice steady but sharp with urgency. "I'm coming back for all of you, I promise. But first, I need to shut down this place." The girl's eyes glistened with tears, not of sorrow, but of the first fragile hope. She whispered, "We will wait, human, we will wait." Jaren nodded, turning toward the deeper corridors, his rifle ready, his heart burning, as he disappeared into the shadows of the camp. The signal in his com still pulsed, but now he had faces to match the cries, and he swore that no chain, no alien, no force in the galaxy would stop him from breaking them free. Asterisk. The corridors of the hidden camp stretched like a maze, dark steel, walls humming with the pulse of alien machines. Captain Jaren moved carefully, every step measured, his eyes sharp. He carried the stolen access key in one hand, his rifle in the other, behind him. The whispers of the enslaved girls still echoed in his ears. He had seen their eyes, broken yet shining with fragile hope. That image burned inside him, fueling his resolve. They believed him, and he would not fail them. But to free them, he needed more than strength. He needed a plan. Jaren ducked into a side chamber, sealing the door behind him. The room glowed with alien consoles, streams of unreadable symbols flowing across them. He placed the stolen key into the nearest port. His scanner connected instantly, translating the alien code into something he could use. The map of the facility spread across his visor. His breath caught. The underground camp was massive, stretching for miles under the desert surface. There were multiple cell blocks, guard barracks, laboratories, and worst of all, breeding halls marked with warning symbols. His stomach twisted at the thought of what horrors were hidden there. At the center of it all was the control core, a heavily protected hub that powered the energy shields, turrets, and slave restraints. If he could disable it, the entire camp would lose control. The shields would drop, the chains would break, and chaos would follow. But reaching it would not be simple. Guard patrols roamed the halls, drones flew overhead, and biometric locks sealed every major door. Charging in blindly would mean death. He needed to outthink them, strike like a shadow. Jaren crouched over the console, studying the patrol schedules. The aliens were confident, too confident. Their routines were predictable. They trusted their shields, their weapons, and their secrecy. That arrogance would be their downfall. He began sketching his plan in his mind. First, he would create a distraction. Something loud, something violent, enough to pull the guards away from the control core. Then, while they rushed to stop it, he would slip inside, overload the systems, and unleash hell from within. But to pull this off, he needed allies. He glanced at the map again. One section caught his attention, a work chamber where some prisoners were forced to maintain machines. Unlike the others, they were not caged but chained to stations. If freed, they could help him spread the chaos. Jaren's lips curled into a grim smile. "All right," he whispered. "Let's turn their slaves into soldiers." He moved swiftly through the corridors, using the access key to bypass doors. His footsteps were silent, his movements precise. Whenever he heard guards nearby, he melted into shadows, waiting for them to pass. The closer he got to the work chamber, the stronger the smell of burning metal filled the air. Finally, he slipped. Inside, the chamber was hot, sparks flying as machines groaned and hissed. Dozens of alien prisoners worked in silence, their bodies thin, their wrists bound to tools by glowing chains. Overseers stood nearby, their eyes cruel, whips of energy crackling in their hands. Jaren's gaze locked on one prisoner, a tall alien girl with emerald skin and sharp eyes. Unlike the others, she still held herself with a fighter's stance. Even in chains, she looked unbroken. He moved quickly, raising his rifle. Two overseers turned, shock flashing across their faces. Jaren fired before they could sound the alarm. The blast dropped them instantly. The other guards rushed forward, but Jaren's shots were fast, precise. One by one they fell until silence returned. The prisoners stared, stunned, not daring to believe what they had seen. Jaren approached the emerald-skinned girl. He pressed the stolen key against her chain. The energy flickered, then died. She pulled her hands free, eyes wide. "Who are you?" she whispered, voice trembling between disbelief and awe. "Human," Jaren said simply. "And I need your help." The words spread like fire. The others whispered it. "Human, human," as if the word itself carried power. Hope they had forgotten Jaren freed them quickly, one after another. His voice was calm but commanding. "Listen to me. I don't have time for long speeches. This place is a fortress, and they think it cannot be broken. But it can. Tonight we end this." The emerald-skinned girl stepped forward, her eyes burning now. "What do you need us to do?" Jaren's plan unfolded. He explained how they would set fires in the outer halls, smash machines, and trigger alarms to draw guards away. While chaos spread, he would strike at the control core. Once it fell, every chain in the camp would break. Every captive would be free to fight. The prisoners listened, and for the first time in years, they felt like more than victims. They felt like soldiers. Jaren armed them with weapons taken from the fallen guards, the sight of once broken aliens holding rifles filled the chamber with silent fire. The emerald-skinned girl raised her weapon high, her voice steady. "For freedom," she said. And the others echoed, their voices trembling but fierce. "For freedom," Jaren nodded, his heart steady, his mind sharp. Good, then let's show them what happens when hope fights back. As they moved into the corridors, shadows dancing around them, alarms already beginning to hum in the distance, Jaren knew the battle had begun. The plan was risky, dangerous, almost impossible. But he also knew something the aliens had forgotten. Humans never stopped fighting once they made a promise. And Jaren had promised freedom. The underground camp had always been silent, filled only with the hum of machines and the cries of prisoners. But tonight, the silence shattered. It began. With fire, sparks erupted in the lower maintenance halls where Jaren and the freed workers had planted charges. Flames licked at the walls, smoke rolling through the air vents. The alarms screamed, sharp and angry, echoing through every corridor. Guards rushed in confusion, their heavy boots pounding the floors. Orders barked and alien tongues filled the air, but chaos spread faster than discipline. One section after another lit up with explosions. Machinery broke down, lights flickered, and shadows turned into battlegrounds. Jaren moved through it all like a ghost. He knew the plan depended on distraction. The freed workers fought with ferocity, striking overseers and smashing control panels. Their chains were gone, and their rage carried them forward like a storm. Emerald-skinned girl fought beside him. Her stolen rifle roared, cutting down guards as they scrambled. She had once been chained to machines. Now she was a warrior again. "They don't know how to stop us," she shouted over the chaos. Her eyes burning bright, Jaren nodded. But his mind was already on the control core, the heart of the camp, the place that kept every shield and every chain active. If it fell, the whole system would collapse. That was his true goal, but to get there, he had to carve a path through fire and blood. They reached one of the main cell blocks. The prisoners inside pressed against the bars, their eyes wide as they saw the battle raging outside. Jaren didn't hesitate. He slammed the stolen key into the lock system. Sparks burst. Lights flickered, and then the doors opened. The alien girl stumbled out, weak and trembling. But the sight of guards falling gave them courage. Some grabbed weapons from fallen overseers. Others clung to each other. The silvery-skinned girl Jaren had first spoken to looked at him, her voice breaking with awe. "You came back, I promised." Jaren said firmly. His rifle barked again, dropping another guard who stormed into the block. "Now fight or run, but don't ever bow to them again." The words struck deep. The girls who had once been silent victims now shouted with fury. Their voices rose like a storm, echoing through the halls. The camp that had fed on their silence now trembled beneath their cries. More explosions rocked the structure. Pipes burst, filling the corridors with steam. Lights flickered out, plunging rooms into chaos. In the confusion, prisoners surged forward, their chains falling, their fear turning into rage. Jaren led them onward. Pushing deeper toward the core, guards tried to regroup, forming lines with heavy weapons. But the rebellion hit them like a wave. Dozens of freed captives charging at once. Some fell, but the rest pressed forward, fueled by desperation and the sight of their oppressors finally bleeding. The emerald-skinned warrior covered Jaren's flank. Her aim was sharp, her voice fierce. "They will remember this night," she said, firing into a line of drones that buzzed down from the ceiling. "They will remember the human who broke their chains." Jaren didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the massive doors ahead, the entrance to the control core. The guards there were stronger, armored, and determined to hold their ground. He raised a hand, signaling the others to hold back. The prisoners stopped, their breaths heavy, their bodies bruised but unbroken. Jaren stepped forward alone. His voice cut through the chaos, calm and steady. "You think your fortress is unbreakable. You think no one dares challenge you. But you forgot one thing: humans don't run from monsters. We fight them." The guards roared, charging at him, weapons blazing. Jaren rolled, fired, and struck. His shots tore through their armor, his movements sharp and relentless. The freed captives surged behind him, crashing into the line with screams of fury. The hallway became a storm of fire, steel, and blood. When the last guard fell, silence returned for a heartbeat. The massive door to the control core loomed ahead. Jaren pressed the stolen key against the lock. The system hesitated, alarm screaming louder. Then, with a final spark, the door slid open. Inside, the core glowed like a heart of fire. Massive machines humming with dark power, energy conduits, pulsed along the walls, feeding the chains, the shields, the turrets. Jaren stepped inside. The prisoners following, their faces lit with awe and fear. "This is it," Jaren whispered. His hand tightened on his rifle. "Once this falls, you are all free." He looked at the prisoners, their eyes wide, their breaths heavy. "But understand this, when we break it, the whole camp will know. They will come for us with everything they have. This is the moment you choose. Do you fight for freedom, or do you die as slaves?" The answer came not in words, but in the roar of voices the captives shouted together, their cries shaking the chamber. They were no longer prisoners. They were rebels. Jaren smiled grimly. He raised his weapon toward the control systems. His voice steady. "Then let's break their chains." The moment Jaren fired into the control systems, the entire core chamber shook. Sparks exploded from the conduits, blue energy spilling across the walls like rivers of lightning. The machines that once pulsed with control now screamed in protest, one after another failing under the overload. Chains across the camp snapped open with bursts of light. Shackles fell from wrists and ankles. Prison doors hissed and slid apart, and for the first time in years, silence turned into a storm of voices. Hundreds of prisoners cried out as freedom rushed back into their lungs. But freedom came with fire. The camp's alarms blared louder, sirens wailing like a dying beast. The walls trembled as explosions ripped through the facility. Automated defenses activated in panic. Drones buzzed down from ceilings. Turrets spun wildly, firing even at their own walls. The system that once kept everything under control was now tearing itself apart. Jaren turned to the captives at his side, his face sharp with determination. "This place is falling. We move now. Stay together. Fight if you must, but don't stop moving." The emerald-skinned warrior nodded fiercely. "They thought chains would keep us. Now we will break through them all." She raised her rifle, leading a group of freed captives into the corridor. Jaren pushed forward with the silvery-skinned girl close behind. She was still weak, but her eyes carried fire now. She clung to his arm as if the human himself was the rope pulling her out of the abyss. The corridors were chaos. Flames burst from ruptured pipes. Smoke rolled thick. Shadows of prisoners ran in every direction, some screaming, some fighting, others clutching loved ones they thought they would never see again. Guards tried to regroup, but their order was gone. They fired wildly, but the rebellion crushed them from all sides. For every prisoner who fell, two more surged forward, fueled by rage, fueled by hope. Jaren cut through the madness, blasting drones from the air. His eyes locked on the path to the surface. Every step was heavy, every hallway filled with danger. But he kept moving. His promise to these captives burned in his chest like iron. At one junction, a massive beast was unleashed, a war creature the Syndicate had kept chained as a weapon. It roared, its body armored with bone and steel, its red eyes locked on the fleeing prisoners. The captives screamed, but Jaren stood firm. His rifle cracked shot after shot, but the beast charged forward, shrugging off the blasts. At the last moment, Jaren rolled aside, tossing a plasma grenade beneath it. The explosion ripped through the beast's underbelly, fire tearing it apart. Its roar turned to silence as it collapsed, shaking the ground. The freed prisoners stared in shock, then erupted in cheers. "The human destroyed it," one shouted. And the words spread like lightning, filling them with more courage. Jaren wasted no time. "Keep moving," he commanded, pulling the silvery-skinned girl along. Her hand gripped his tightly, as if letting go would mean falling back into chains. The group climbed higher through the collapsing tunnels. The ground trembled beneath their feet, walls cracked, dust fell in choking clouds. Lights shattered overhead, plunging them into flickering darkness. At the final blast doors, they found their path blocked. A line of elite guards stood waiting, armored heavier than the rest, their weapons charged, their eyes filled with fury. They would not let the captives escape without drowning them in blood. The rebels faltered, fear returning for a moment, but Jaren stepped forward, his voice cutting through the smoke and fear. "You've been slaves too long. Tonight you choose, run and die in chains, or fight and live free." The emerald-skinned warrior raised her weapon high. "Fight!" she roared, and the captives roared back. Surging forward as one, the battle was brutal. The elite guards struck with precision, cutting down prisoners, but the tide would not break. The rebels fought like wolves, their anger a storm that no armor could hold. Jaren moved like fire, his rifle spitting death, his body a shield for those behind him. When the last guard fell, silence returned, broken only by the groan of the collapsing camp. The massive blast doors hissed and slid open, revealing the night sky above. The captives stumbled into the open air, gasping. Their eyes looked up at the stars, some for the first time in years. Tears rolled down faces once dry with despair. They were free, but Jaren knew it was not over. Far above, ships moved in orbit. The Syndicate's reinforcements were coming. They would not let their slaves escape without a fight. He turned to the freed captives, his voice steady. "We're not safe yet. We get to my ship, we leave this cursed world, and we show them that humans do not abandon the weak." The silvery-skinned girl gripped his hand tighter, her voice trembling but filled with hope. "We will follow you, human. Lead us." And so Jaren led them across the burning canyon, the glow of freedom behind them, the shadow of vengeance ahead. The escape had begun. The night sky above the canyon burned with fire. Alien ships descended like predators, their lights cutting through the smoke and dust. The freed captives clung together, staring upward with fear. They had broken free from chains, but now the hunters came, determined to drag them back. Captain Jaren stood at the front, his rifle gripped tight, his eyes narrowed as he watched the largest ship land on the ridge, its hull black as iron, its engines roaring like thunder. From its belly, a massive figure stepped out. The ground shook with each step. It was the Syndicate leader, towering and armored, his body a mountain of muscle wrapped in steel plates. His eyes glowed with cruel fire. His voice boomed across the keel. "Canyon, foolish human, you dare break what belongs to me. You dare touch what I own." The captives trembled, some even stepped back, but Jaren did not move. His voice cut through the night, sharp and unshaken. "They don't belong to you, they never did, and tonight they walk free." The leader laughed, the sound like grinding stone. "One man standing against an empire, you think you are their savior. But you are nothing. When you fall, their hope will die with you." Jaren raised his rifle, his voice steady. "Then I won't fall." The battle began in a storm of fire. The Syndicate troops poured from the ship, their weapons blazing. The rebels, though exhausted, raised stolen rifles and fought back with the fury of the newly freed. Blasts lit the night, smoke rising, the air filled with the screams of war. Jaren moved through the chaos, cutting down soldiers with precision, his every step pushing toward the towering leader. The emerald-skinned warrior fought at his side, her rifle roaring. The silvery-skinned girl clung close to the others, her voice crying out, urging them not to give up. But the leader cut through the battlefield like a monster, his massive weapon swung with brutal strength, each strike sending prisoners flying. His armor shrugged off blasts, his laughter boomed. "You cannot kill me, human. I am power itself." Jaren's shot sparked harmlessly against the leader's chest. The beast of a man advanced, swinging his weapon down. Jaren rolled aside, the ground splitting where he had stood. The shockwave knocked rebels off their feet. Jaren rose, his chest heaving. He knew his rifle was not enough. He needed something stronger, something final. His eyes darted to the wreckage of a broken turret nearby. Sparks danced across its shattered core. He sprinted for it, sliding across the dirt. The leader roared, chasing him. Each step shook the canyon. Prisoners screamed as the massive alien crushed anyone in his path. Jaren ripped the power cell from the turret, its glow searing hot in his hands. His voice low, steady. "This ends now." The leader charged, his weapon raised high. Jaren stood firm, the glowing cell in one hand, his rifle in the other. At the last moment, he dove forward, shoving the power cell into a gap in the leader's chest armor. Then he rolled away, shouting, "Now!" The cell exploded. A blast of fire and lightning tore through the canyon. The leader roared in rage, his massive body twisting. Armor shattered, flames engulfing him. He swung wildly, but his strength faltered, his legs buckled. And with one final cry of fury, the syndicate leader collapsed into the dirt. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of fire. The prisoners stared in disbelief. The monster who had ruled their lives, who had broken their hope, now lay broken himself. Jaren rose slowly, his body bruised, his breath heavy. He looked at the captives, their wide eyes fixed on him. His voice carried through the silence, steady and unshaken. "No one owns you now. You are free." The emerald-skinned warrior raised her rifle high, shouting, "Free!" And the canyon erupted with voices, hundreds of captives shouting together, their cries echoing into the stars. "Free, free, free!" Above them, the remaining syndicate ships began to retreat. Their leader gone, their control broken, they fled into the dark, unwilling to face the storm of rebellion below. Jaren turned toward his ship, the Resolute, its lights shining like a beacon in the dust. He raised his hand, signaling the survivors. "Come, we leave this cursed place." The captives followed, their steps slow but filled with strength. Each one carried scars but also hope. They had seen chains fall. They had seen a human defy the impossible. As they boarded the ship, the silvery-skinned girl paused. Her eyes glistened as she looked at Jaren, her voice soft but filled with wonder. "Why did you save us, human? You could have turned away." Jaren met her gaze, his voice quiet but fierce. "Because no one else would. Because humans don't walk away from those in chains." The girl smiled through her tears, whispering, "Then the galaxy will never forget this night." The Resolute lifted from the canyon, rising through the smoke and fire. The freed captives pressed against the windows, watching the planet shrink behind them. A prison turned to ash. Jaren stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the stars. Knew the fight was not over. The syndicate would not forgive. The galaxy would hear of this, but for now, for this night, he had kept his promise. And as the stars opened before them, the voices of the freed echoed through the ship, not in fear, not in sorrow, but in triumph. They were free.